Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on my thoughts on movies and stuff. Today's video is on Pixar's Soul. The story follows a middle school music teacher called Joe Gardner who seeks to reunite his soul and his body after they get separated right before his big break as a jazz musician. Instead of going into the great beyond, Joe veers off the path and he ends up in the great before, a place where souls who haven't gone to Earth yet get shaped and find themselves before heading down. And right off the bat, one thing I noticed about this movie is that it's not as heavy-handed as previous Pixar films. There's no psychological undertone or a balancing act that has to take place with trying to be accurate to a different culture's understanding of the world of the dead. Soul is a lot more subtle, with a lot less world building, and the emotions are just as powerful without having to dial the antics to 11. But before we get into that, why don't you go ahead and hit that big red button? It's there for a reason. Go on and subscribe. Hit the like button and let me know what I can do my thoughts on next in the comments. Also, if you'd like to show some support for the channel, why not visit our Patreon? Patrons receive early access to videos, behind the scenes content, and much more. Visit patreon.com/the Netos, or just go down to the link in the description, whichever floats your boat. And hopefully we'll be seeing you on the other side as a patron. All done? Great. On to the show. Soul. Brilliant. Bloody brilliant. I literally wanted to stand up and applaud in the theater. You know, it's a shame that we don't really do that anymore. We're too used to Marvel movie post-credit scenes. Speaking of, when are we gonna watch WandaVision? Good question, but I can't even answer it. According to our viewers, we don't get to the point fast enough, so I can't answer that. What viewers? It's above your pay grade. It's interesting how the movie has Joe Gardner, a man who's lived in New York his entire life, a man who by now should understand the importance of looking where you're going. I'm walking down by falling into a manhole. When you think about it, it actually makes sense that that's the way he'd die. Think about it. His whole thing has always been that he doesn't appreciate the things around him. So it's not ironic at all that that's the same thing that gets him killed. Ooh, I hadn't thought of it like that. You know what I really liked? What's that? The unlikely duo that forms between Joe and 22. Because he's fighting so hard to return to a mediocre life and she's fighting so hard to avoid living a mediocre life? Yes, exactly that. 10 points to Gryffindor. What did you think exactly of our good old 22 there? Right off her introduction, one thing I noticed about 22 is that she's actually quite old. Like really old. Like when you stop and you think about it, you're just like, wow, this is a really old baby soul. Like maybe even a millennia. Maybe even more. Talk about a late bloomer. Yeah, but it's also a long time to be unimpressed with something. All that time just because she couldn't find her spark? Sometimes you just gotta walk the walk. We saw that when she accidentally fell into Joe's body. Yeah, that was really cool what they did there. For a hot second, I really thought it was gonna be just another body swap movie. But then it really paid off and they used it in a way that was very interesting. It wasn't just another tired movie cliche. Yeah, having Lil 22 be in Joe's body and experience the world for its tiny, glorious moments. It's just, you know, it's something that reminded Joe that life is truly worth living, and the viewer for that matter. The same can be said about Joe when he finally gets back into his body and he has that gig with Dorothea Williams. Bruh, that lady could blow. She handled that sax with precision and poise. And Joe was also a phenom. I wanted to say how ridiculous it was that he could just hop on the keys and he could play to whatever else is being played without seeing any sheet music or knowing what's going on or knowing the song. That was tight. That was hard to love. But the music was so good that I just let it slide. The movie is beautifully scored. Jazz lovers are going to get a real kick out of this. Too true. Well, hold on. I want to take it back to the zone. The zone that only prodigies can enter? No, not that zone. Relax, because I mean, this isn't Kuroko no Basuke. No, I mean the zone that anyone can get into if they're doing something they love or they're doing something and they just get really focused into it. Just like the electricity in the eyes, okay? I do too, and we can talk about Kuroko no Basuke after this, I promise. But for now, I love how the movie creators connected the zone with mindful obsession. Like, if you're not careful, it's the very things that you love that can enslave you, that you need to be careful of the things that you're obsessed with, that you have to love carefully. We're our own biggest obstacles. Sometimes we just need to let go of our obsessions and just be. Exactly. Much how like Des explained in the barbershop. Great scene, by the way, very authentic. Doing something that doesn't align with your spark or with your life's purpose doesn't make you a failure. It's okay to have your goals and your dreams change. It's okay to live. To just be. Just be. In fact, that's probably why 22 had so much friction with her previous mentors. They were all probably trying to teach her to specialize in something, to have some sort of life's purpose, instead of just living for the sake of living. Good point. Yeah, they all kept trying to fit her into a mold, when in reality she's a mold breaker. Whatever she does on Earth, I'm sure she'll be amazing. Yeah. And just like Joe, I hope all of us jaded adults get reminded on how beautiful this world really can be. Though while we're here, I have a theory. What's up? Did you notice the Jerrys were kind of odd? How so? Well, they said that they're essentially the universe dumbed down into a form that our feeble minds can understand, right? I'm listening. What if Joe's adventure was predetermined? Where's the proof? Every time there's a portal that opens to the great beyond or the great before, it's a Jerry that opens the portal. Yeah, so? Who opens the portal that lets Joe into the great before the first time? Holy moly! I don't know, guys. What do you think? Was Soul the reminder to live we all needed? Or was it too simple in its message? Interestingly enough, quite a few people have expressed their thoughts on the internet saying that Soul is just a bit too complex for children to understand, but I don't think that's true. I honestly feel like Inside Out was far more complex. And we know that with the success of Coco, children are very capable of understanding and processing the topic of death. In fact, the only evidence I need is that in a cinema filled with at least 3 other families, I was there by myself, because I ain't got no babies. At the end of the movie, one kid said really loudly for the entire cinema to hear, "This was a great film, I really liked it." That's not my words, it's the kid's words. I kid you not. Okay, that's enough of that. So I guess we don't have to adult-splain that the kids won't get it, because clearly the kids seem to be getting it just fine. Soul is also the first Pixar film to feature an African-American protagonist. I'm glad it's finally here. I really enjoyed that Pixar managed to stay true to a lot of African-American culture, and at the same time it managed to catch the vibrance and the diversity of New York City life. Jamie Foxx voiced Joe Gardner, and he did an amazing job. I couldn't even tell it was him. I didn't know who was who going into the movie. This was once again another film where I saw the poster and I knew a little bit of the backstory. And it's a Pixar film, so I was like, yes, Pixar's gonna knock me off my feet. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. So I had no idea that Jamie Foxx was the voice of the main guy, and he killed it. And Tina Fey does the voice of 22. And I don't think I need to go any deeper into how much I love Tina Fey, because I sit on the couch and I talk to myself as a skit, and if that says anything about how much I love it, if that does not say how much I love SNL, then I don't. And you know what? They both did an excellent job. But you know what the greatest surprise for me was? The character in the movie called Moonwind, who was voiced by none other than Graham Norton. Who would have thought? Who would have? I thought he lived. I thought he lived on that couch. Honestly, I'm surprised. And of course, those 3 aren't the only people on the cast who are worth noting. There are tons of names that are worth mentioning if you look through the cast. One of them being Questlove, who was the voice of Curly. So it's safe to say that Soul had the star power it needed to push the performances to a great length. The cast aside, Soul had some pretty good jokes. It's implied that the only reason why the Knicks keep doing so poorly is because every time their players enter the zone, 22 has been knocking them right back out, and that's just hilarious. Funnily enough, I'm the only one in the cinema who got that joke, so I was the guy in the cinema who's laughing by himself, and that's weird. But it was still funny. And of course, it wouldn't be a fair review of Soul if I didn't mention the counselors. The counselors are essentially manifestations of the universe, and they're all called Jerry, except for Terry the accountant. He's got a weird stick up his butt. Nobody knows what's going on with him. They're essentially these warm light in the form of lines that can communicate and change their shape and be 2D and 3D at the same time. And they're funny and they're magnificent, and I can't imagine the movie without them. The character design for them was just genius, honestly. One thing I'd like to touch on before heading out is that a lot of reviews keep saying that Soul was wrong for trying to say that people's personalities are predetermined in the great before. That they completely ignore genetics, learned behavior, yada 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 yada. But I don't think that that's what the movie's trying to say at all. 22 actually made it very clear that none of that actually matters because the great before is hypothetical. I mean, to think that you just see all of these little baby souls run into these little structures and that just determines the parts of their personality, I think to see that and to think that it's just that is very short-sighted. In a movie that's already trying to say that there's more to life, why would you assume that they try and keep something as enigmatic as a soul in a box? I honestly think that this problem is coming up because most people aren't watching this movie in cinema, and for good reason, because, you know, Corona's a thing. And it's a real shame that they can't experience the full force of the film in cinema, because Soul's impact really comes through with 3 times the force in a movie theater. It's like Tenet, but for the soul. But hey, that is easy for me to say. Disney Plus still isn't available here, so we just keep on doing what we do. That's all from me, guys. If you liked this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you absolutely hated this video, give it an even bigger thumbs up. Like I said earlier, subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified about every time we upload. Visit our Patreon, show some support, and of course, feel free to check out some of our other videos. You can go ahead and let me know what you'd like me to do my thoughts on next in the comments. And until then, see you later. Bye-bye.